Hello everyone, this is Advocate Mrinal Dattatreya Bua, practicing before the Supreme Court of India and visiting faculty for the Cyber Laws at ILI. Students, today we are going to discuss Module 4, that is E-commerce Concept and Issues. Now we can take the overview of the module. This module is a conceptual study which describes and analyzes e-commerce, its perspectives and issues involved. It inculcates the various chapters such as Conceptual Analysis, the concept of e-commerce, business models for e-commerce, etc. Second chapter is about e-commerce and Indian perspective. Third chapter is about from m-commerce to e-commerce. Fourth chapter is about e-commerce terms of service agreements. Fifth chapter is about e-commerce and online advertisement. Sixth chapter is about disintermediation and reintermediation. Seventh chapter is about online payment. Eighth chapter is about electronic taxation. And lastly, we'll be discussing conclusions, suggestions and the summary of the module. Students, the objective and scope of this module is to study and analyze the concept and issues of the e-commerce in general with reference to its functioning and in special reference to Indian scenario. Now look at the conceptual analysis. Firstly, a legal definition of e-commerce. The Internet Tax Freedom Act on the one hand more narrowly defines e-commerce as any transaction conducted over the internet or through internet access comprising the sale, lease, license, offer or delivery of property, goods, services or information whether or not for consideration, and includes the provision of the internet access. Secondly, the relationship between e-commerce and WTO. The World Trade Organization Ministerial Declaration on E-commerce defines e-commerce as the production, distribution, marketing, sales or delivery of goods and services by electronic means. Now look at the e-commerce and EDI. During the 60s, though telegraph, telephones and telex were still relied upon options for faster communication, nevertheless, EDI was fast emerging as a computer-to-computer means of managing inventory, bill presentment, shipment, orders, product specifications and payment. It is a process by which goods are ordered, shipped and tracked computer to computer using standardized protocol. EDI permits the electronic settlement and reconciliation of the flow of goods and services between the companies and consumers, and saves money because of the computer, and not an office staff submits and processes orders, claims and other routine tasks. India joined the EDI movement in early 1992 when it obtained the observer status in the Asia EDI Fact Board, that is ASEB. India became a member of ASEB in August 1992. The community partners for custom system were broadly identified as banks, airlines, Airport Authority of India, Apparel Export Promotions Council, seaports, Director General of Foreign Trade, etc. EDI also used in international trade, electronic fund transfer, that is EFT, between supplier and customer via banker, insurance, claim settlement, etc. Now look at the another point, that is e-commerce and business process reengineering, that is BPR. The idea behind business process reengineering is to create effective and efficient business processes for better quality. The thrust of BPR lies in managing the existing resources in an optimum manner. Take an example, e-commerce forever creates efficient and effective business processes for better quality at a lower cost. Now look at the another approach, that is an e-commerce like an online approach. E-commerce online approach is to perform traditional marketing and sales functions such as payment and fund transfers, order entry and processing, invoicing, inventory, management, cargo tracking, electronic catalogs, point of sale, data gathering, advertising, marketing and customer support function. Now look at the new phenomenon of e-commerce. E-consumers' desires are very hard to predict, pinpoint or decipher in electronic markets whose shape, structure and population are still in the early stages, more so in Indian perspective. Now look at the differentiation between e-commerce and e-business. E-business refers to all aspects of businesses where technology is very important. This may include knowledge management, design and manufacturing, R&D, procurement, finance, project planning, human resources, planning and related activities. It is that part of e-business that relates directly to sales and marketing. It is a part of the all-encompassing world of the e-business. The next important point is the stages of e-business. Businesses tries to connect, adopt, integrate and outsource IT systems so companies can spend more time managing their business. It processes through different stages. Look at the table 1, which describes 3 stages of e-business. Stage 1 conducts business transaction on the web in order to increase the profits and provide better customer service. Stage 2 is integrating core processes to establish more responsive relationships with employee, suppliers and partners. And stage 3 focuses almost all time and effort on core competencies. Now the next point is about classification of aspects of e-business models. E-business models are based on various aspects such as technology, software domain, management and statutory legal dimension. Refer the table 2 for the aspects of e-business classification. First is a technology aspect, which covers e-business models comprising of telecommunication, networking and other infrastructure issues. Second is about the software domain. It includes programming language, web page design, customer interface transactions, management security and privacy management and large scale data mining. Third aspect is about the management aspect. It deals with the business strategies for value creation, growth and customer development and retention. Fourth aspect is about the statutory and legal dimension. It addresses various cyber laws dealing with security crimes, etc. and government policies for nurturing the internet-based e-commerce. Next point is of course about the e-commerce models. Functionally, e-commerce involves business and consumer. It can be divided into 4 distinct segments, which are business to business, that is B2B, business to consumer, that is B2C, consumer to business, that is C2B, and consumer to consumer, that is C2C. Now look at the business to business, that is B2B model. It is a business platform involving 2 independent or even dependent business entities using information and communication tools which acts as a business communication channel between the manufacturer and its suppliers. This may include registration of vendors, invitation of quotations, negotiations, price settlement, contract finalization, procurement, cargo tracking and payments online. Thus, a B2B platform acts as a business facilitator, negotiator and deal maker, which facilitates, negotiates and clinches deal between independent or dependent business units. The illustration for this kind can be www.amazon.com. You can refer image 1 for the description of B2B model. Now, next model is about business to consumer, that is B2C model. It refers to business platform involving a business entity and consumers. It is a retail version of e-commerce, selling goods and services through web-based shops. It is based on the concept of shopping at convenience. It is a retail version of e-commerce known as e-tailing. It is the most popular model of e-commerce as it has helped moving commercial transactions from public domain to private domain. The example of this kind can be www.imn.com. You can refer image 2 for the description of B2C model working. Third model is about consumer to business, that is C2B. It is a kind of retail marketing platform where a business entity seeks or rather chases customers actively. It is a proactive version of e-commerce offering customers deals, packages, a bundle of products at competitive prices. It negotiates or bids by offering best possible deals to the customers. It is often referred to as reverse auction. Example of this kind can be www.monster.com. You can refer image 3 for the working of consumer to business model. Fourth model is about consumer to consumer, that is C2C. It represents a consumer business platform where one consumer acts as a resource person selling goods in an online medium to other consumers at a price. One may call such a processes as consumer to consumer auctions. It is the realm of resale and rentals. It has helped in creating a market for second hand goods. A B2C model is no longer a business to consumer model. It is integrating functionalities of other models like C2C or C2B. Take an example of www.bazi.com or eBay. You can refer image 4 for the functioning of consumer to consumer, that is C2C model. Second chapter is about e-commerce and Indian perspective. There is a phase 1 for e-commerce. Look at the phase 1. The first phase of e-commerce lasted from 1996 to 2001. It helped in shaping new rules of commercial transactions in the electronic marketplace. India followed the models of developed countries while creating e-commerce models, without realizing that one needs technology tools and business maturity to understand this new medium of business. The result was mushrooming of dot-coms as new business engines without proper infrastructure. The dot-com bubble burst of 2001 gave useful lessons in terms of e-commerce. That is, without the spread of technology, development of critical infrastructure, one cannot have revenue generation from these kind of e-commerce activities. Now there was a phase 2 for e-commerce, that is post 2002. The useful lesson which e-commerce realm got was one has to have sensible business model which should not only work technology wise but also business wise. It also gave a message that without electronic banking, e-commerce will not be successful. Next point is about the changing perception of e-commerce. The reason of this change in perception from phase 1 to phase 2 is as follows. Look at the first reason, better information technology infrastructure. E-business models are moving from proprietary EDI specific solutions to internet. Next reason, look at the next reason, wider acceptance of online payment system. Online payment mechanism means payment and acceptance of virtual money. Any such online payment system requires not only the parties transacting business over the net but also a payment gateway facilitating such transactions. Illustratively, credit cards and other models of online payment. Proprietary online payments systems like CyberCash, eCash can be used online for making payments such as secure socket layer. Smart cards are being used over public terminals, etc. A system of credit card transactions over the internet is being currently developed jointly by Visa and MasterCard with technical assistance from companies like Netscape, IBM, which is known as secure electronic transaction. The adoption of digital or electronic signatures as an authentication standard provides integrity, confidentiality, and non-repudiation of electronic records for legal recognition of electronic contracts and legal sanctity to online payment system. Look at the next point, legal recognition of e-commerce practices. Legal recognition to e-commerce practices has come a long way from the initial adoption of UNCITRAL model law on e-commerce by General Assembly of the United Nations in early 1997. The purpose is to encourage the use of electronic commerce and to provide nations with model legislation governing the use of alternative to paper-based models of communication and storage of information. It is based on functional equivalent approach and gives legal acceptance to electronic records and digital signatures, that is asymmetric crypto system. Now look at the next point, adoption of security standards by the industry. Business thrives on safety, security and thirst, whether it is offline or online. Internet being an open, integrated and public system requires far better security coverage than its offline counterparts. It needs an encryption technology which provides confidentiality, authentication, integrity, non-repudiation, auditability. Now look at the next chapter. It is about from e-commerce to m-commerce. One of the rapidly growing areas of e-commerce is mobile or m-commerce. M-commerce was born due to new technological advances such as GSM networks, web protocols, wireless application protocol is for accessing information over mobile wireless network and 3G technologies. Actually, m-commerce was long perceived but was first introduced in 1990s. By using innovative technologies, mobile operators have promised to consumers more effective ways of communication and transacting their business. If e-commerce can be seen as dynamic commercial process, then m-commerce can be referred to as dynamic techno-commercial process. It is far more consumer oriented than e-commerce practices. M-commerce depends on the efficient assimilation and adaptation of technology by the consumer, for the consumer and of the consumer. In the last 20 years, the world has seen evolution of new communication technologies which can be described as follows. For example, take a generation of 1G mobile to 4G mobiles. It is important here to point out that a website is useful if it does something practical, such as allow customer to access their accounts or business to cut cost by improving streamlining business processes. Similarly, if m-commerce is competent, e-commerce, it must have practical applications. Moreover, m-commerce has its own distinctive features, namely personalization, on-demand services and micropayments. Secondly, m-commerce is about the personalization. It includes made-for-me services like ringtone, gaming, etc. SMS, instant messaging, mobile blogging, mobile banking, etc. It is about on-demand services. All information, especially personal information, has to cope up with new demand. It is about micropayments. It is a financial payment in an amount that is small relative to the transaction cost that would be incurred in making the payment using traditional payment mechanism. Take an example. Desktop access has migrated to mobile environment. Now, the important point is about difference between m-commerce and e-commerce. The question over here is there any difference between two? The answer is yes, and it is no also. Yes, in the sense that in India, for the large section of society, e-commerce meant use of the computer and computer network for online transactions. The e-commerce remained confined to metropolitan centers. There existed a digital divide, digital haves and digital have-nots. On the other hand, in the last 15 years, mobile phone is the first screen for the majority of the population, whereas for urban population in India, mobile has been the third screen. The earlier two were the TV and computer. This difference has made use of mobile applications complementary for urban dwellers for e-commerce purposes and supplementary for the rest of the population. And no, in the sense that m-commerce is a logical extension of e-commerce processes. E-commerce includes m-commerce. These days, desktops are mobile, and with the result of all e-commerce applications are available on the mobile phone as well. It is for the user to decide from where he is performing commercial transaction, whether from a computer or from a communication device. Now, look at the comparison between e-commerce and m-commerce. You can refer table 3, which describes comparison between two. E-commerce is about client-server approach, while M-commerce is about mobile agent approach. E-commerce is about the searching processes. It may be boring and repetitive, but in case of M-commerce, the mobile agent can do the searching as per the specification of requirement. In case of e-commerce, the search processes ties down resources while you visit each site in turn. While in case of M-commerce, the search processes frees up your resources. In case of e-commerce, if the network gets down, you may need to search it from the beginning. But in case of M-commerce, it is less dependent on the network condition, as the searching is gone at the remote sites by mobile agent. E-commerce is time consuming because you visit the sites only one by one. But M-commerce is efficient as the search can be proceeded in parallel by sending out multiple agents. In case of e-commerce, device is immovable or portable, public or private, for example, desktop, PC, notebook, etc. While in case of M-commerce, the device can be portable handy private device, for example, mobile, PDA, etc. Now, look at the chapter 4, E-commerce Terms of Service Agreements. The purpose of Terms of Service Agreements means and includes to set down what you have agreed or present in flexible terms under which you will accept business, including defining the contract, defining the business procedure, protection of your business at your rights, limitations of your liability and other relevant matters, etc. Now, look at the very important point, the rules, ground rules for the framing of terms and service agreements. What are the rules? Know your site implies that one should be aware of the website's revenue model, its functionalities and target users. Your website's strengths and weaknesses. It can be analyzed by understanding every aspect of the website. Transform your site's strengths and weaknesses into appropriate disclaimers. Cover yourself from all angles by framing appropriate, adequate and relevant terms of service conditions. Now look at the next point, that is a model terms of service conditions. It may include the things such as a notice, website limited license, limitations on use, intellectual property rights, linking to the website, advertisers, errors and connections, third party content, disclaimer, limitation of liability, indemnification, third party rights, unlawful activity, governing law and jurisdiction, modifications to terms of use, if you do not agree, etc. Now, look at the how to protect the business, that is protecting the business. The first point would be the framing of privacy policy. Merely creating the terms of service conditions is not enough. It must be complemented with an appropriate privacy policy which also follows questions to be asked. Now, the question over here is what kind of information is to be collected, what kind of technology tools will be used, whether information to be given to the third party, etc. Now, what can be the objective and contents of privacy policy? It may include privacy notice, the information which website collects, how the website uses the information, how the information will be protected, etc. Now, the next important point is e-commerce service level agreements. In order to create e-commerce related websites, an entrepreneur has to enter various agreements such as registration agreement, content develop agreement, web designing agreement and web hosting agreement. In case of domain registration agreement, we know very well that domain names are bought and sold every day, often with no legal problems. It is an agreement between the registrar and registrant. Person who pays to acquire the domain name is being referred to as registrant. The main clauses of such agreement to include place of location of registrar, security to protect domain name, registration of records, right of refusal, transfer and assignment of domain name, etc. Second agreement is content development agreement. If a company elects to develop its website without outside assistance, it enters smaller number of agreements which covers licenses for web development to create and maintain content. On the other hand, an organization outsources its website development. It needs to enter into developer agreement with a third party, that is between the content developer and the website owner. Next agreement is about the web designing agreement. It is an agreement between the web designer and the website owner. The main clauses of such an agreement includes designing cost for the home page, web page, atom-wise designing, cost image, photograph, etc. Next agreement is web hosting agreement. It is agreement between web hosting service provider and website owner. Fifth chapter is about e-commerce and online advertisement. Online advertisement is a part of e-commerce ecosystem. It has played an important role in bringing the consumer and the business closer, and like e-commerce, it has also go exponentially. Then why there is a requirement of online advertising? Online advertising is a growing phenomenon because of growing net population, exponential growth in e-commerce transactions, and e-commerce of net as a channel complement offline commercial activities, etc. There are various types of online advertisements. The types of online advertisement includes text ads, display ads, intertextual ads, video ads, on-site ads, sponsorships, advertorials, contextual targeting, behavioral targeting, geo-targeting, local advertising, websites, banner ads, interactive ads, pop-up windows, blogging, ticker tape, web directors, search engines, etc. Now, sixth point is about disintermediation and reintermediation. Intermediation is one of the most important and interesting e-commerce issue related to loss of jobs. The services provided by the intermediaries are matching and providing information which can be fully automated and is likely to be in e-marketplaces that provide free services. The value-added services requires expertise, and this can only be partially automated. The phenomenon by which intermediaries who provide mainly matching and providing information services is called disintermediation. The brokers who provide value-added services or who manage electronic intermediation or infomediation are not only surviving but may actually prosper. This phenomenon is called reintermediation. The factor that should be considered here are enormous number of participants, extensive information processing, delicate negotiations, etc. Now, the seventh chapter is about online payment system. For effective growth of e-commerce, a secure online payment system is a necessity. Often, online payment system is being referred to as electronic fund transfer. It means transferring money from one bank account to other bank account. Same, intra or different bank branches, etc. It has started since 1960 when the first bank started using proprietary EDI network to share banking information. Later on, this was converted into automatic clearing houses. At global level, to facilitate faster fund transfer between the remitter and beneficiary, the instructions are sent through telex, SWIFT, wire transfer, chips, etc. Consumers are generally consumers are generally unknown, hence the payments are to be ensured before the delivery of goods and services through EFT. In India, it has got fillip when the central government brought in forth the Negotiable Instruments Amendments and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 2002 by introducing the concept of a truncated check in section 6B of the said act. It is very much evident from this section that truncation process involves replacing physical checks with their electronic images, which will travel through the stages of the clearing cycle. You can have a look at image 5, which describes online payment processes. Now, the 8th chapter is about the electronic taxation. As e-commerce occurs in various forms and between various entities in the market, the question is how to tax it. If the taxing good or service is a digital download, the government have always been taxing brick and mortar business as per the statutory provisions. Businesses are being taxed on the principle of physical presence or substantial nexus criteria in a state where their product is delivered. Presumably, the point of sale is the state on which the goods are shipped, and thus the consumer owes sales taxes to the state. It is important that transactions should not be immune from taxation solely because the sale is conducted through a medium distinct from that of traditional brick and mortar retailer. Similarly, it is not prudent to tax these e-commerce models purely on the basis of traditional approach to brick and mortar taxation, as they have their own unique features. Now, what is this uniqueness of e-commerce taxation? Tax revenues are a major source of income in governments, and one major concern in e-commerce is which taxing authority has the right to collect the revenues. It is the nature of the technology-based transaction which has given rise to the lack of physical connection between the consumer and seller located in different states, changing the location of web server hosting the e-commerce website. Now, the questions arise such as, which country has the right to tax the transaction and at what rate? Non-taxation of goods like software, music and data, etc. Export and import of digital goods across international borders without paying custom duties. Parallel channel of transactions. In this case, it is the nation-state's constitutional prerogative to levy taxes on any online economic activity and has a right to define its own e-commerce taxation principles. Now, look at the important point, that is taxing e-commerce in India. The term taxation is defined under Article 366(28) of Constitution of India. The important point over here is establishment of business connection play important role in case of levy of tax. The term permanent establishment includes various points such as a place of management, a branch, an office, a factory, a workshop, a mine, a warehouse in relation to the person providing storage, etc. Permanent establishment postulates the existence of enduring and permanent nature of foreign enterprise in another country. The Finance Act 2002 introduced the definition of permanent establishment in the Act. The definition which was introduced by Finance Act 2002 is similar to that of the definition provided under OECD, but it does not, provides that it does not in itself constitute tangible property. Paragraphs 42.1 to 42.10 have been added immediately after paragraph 42 of the commentary on Article 5. It further clarifies whether a website constitutes a place of business, whether location of server constitutes a permanent establishment. Now, look at the next point, that is taxing digital goods and services. In India, Article 366, Clause 13 of the Constitution, the expression goods includes all material commodities and articles. As far as the taxing goods, digital goods and services are concerned, in Tata Consultancy Services versus State of Andhra Pradesh, the constitutional bench of 5 judges has given a wonderful judgment, and it was held there by that the test to determine whether the property is good for the purpose of sale tax is not whether the property is tangible and intangible or incorporeal. The test is whether the concerned item is capable of abstraction, consumption and use, whether it can be transmitted, transferred, delivered, stored, possessed, etc. You can take an example of copyright and software, bringing them within the purview of state taxation. There are other points as well. For example, applicability of VAT and tax issues in cross-border e-commerce. It also includes residence-based taxation and source-based taxation. Now, the last and important point is, what are the challenges before tax authorities? At global level, taxation authorities need to enhance technical knowledge to match up electronic reality, as procuring information from taxpayers and certifying tax compliance in e-commerce is a severe issue. We can term major challenges as identifying the taxpayer in e-commerce, obtaining access to verifiable information and documents, obtaining access to encrypted data, developing a response to the advent of electronic money, that is e-cash, and ensuring efficient mechanism for collecting tax, especially from non-resident taxpayers, need for initial intergovernment and multi-jurisdictional cooperation and agreement to synchronize the tax treatment. We can move towards to conclude the topic and to provide some suggestions. Students, the e-commerce is the backbone for new economy, which is revolutionary and dynamic in nature. Whether it is e-commerce or m-commerce, it creates opportunities for both entrepreneurs and the consumers. However, there are some challenges to strike a balance between improvement in technology and legal framework. Hence, based on this study, we can draw some findings such as e-commerce in India includes broadly 3 areas: software exports, web-enabled services, e-trade. Hence, agenda inculcating e-commerce should be prepared for the future multilateral trade. With respect to privacy and data protection, it is essential to have appropriate terms of service and privacy policy for all e-commerce and m-commerce practices. As the e-commerce laws are fund, the concept of electronic taxation is still in budding stage. There is a need to recognize the perspective of e-commerce and include new e-taxation practices. The government should prepare a policy to deal with challenges in e-commerce at both central and state VATs. Future tax policy on e-commerce should be consistent with principle of international taxation to regulate e-commerce and its development. For the purpose of understanding, we can summarize this module as follows. Students, this module began with the brief introduction about the e-commerce, stating that with the technological advancement, the acceptance of e-commerce has enormously improved owing to its fast and expedient way of trading goods and services. India is providing a base for e-commerce business models. It inculcated topics such as concepts and development of e-commerce, difference between electronic commerce and m-commerce, concept of online payment along with types, uses and issues involved, e-commerce and online advertising, its types, advantages and disadvantages, and lastly taxing e-commerce in India, which includes concept, principle, issues and suggestions. Lastly, all in all, it is concluded that e-commerce is backbone of economy and creates opportunities to all investors involved. Some recommendations are also provided in this module to meet challenges vis-a-vis issues involved in the process of e-commerce through specific policy making, implementation strategy and awareness. Goodbye. Thank you very much.